as early as 2014. We've been hearing about firefighters having to be rescued from the Transnet building. They were rescued complaining about compressed air not being available. We've seen that happen from time and time again, being denied, vehicles not being available. Should firefighters be dying fighting a fire in a city like Johannesburg, how much responsibility do you take as an administration for this failure to attend to this crisis in EMS? Because it's been coming for a while.
Well, I think it's not a question of the EMS being responsible. Obviously, if the building itself does not obviously really meet safety standards, you can have the best fire team in place. If the building itself does not really meet the standards, you've got a challenge already. And if you look at most of the buildings in this inner city, I can take you within the 5 kilometer radius right now. I can tell you're going to find more than 50% of the buildings actually not really meeting the requirement. So that is why on the 1st of December 2016, 100 days of my administration, I made a commitment that we cannot let the situation continue. Exactly the issue you are raising. And we've started that process. Us as the City of Johannesburg, we've already passed our inner city rejuvenation plan passed by a council. We are now taking back these buildings, offering them to the private sector to build affordable, safe accommodation.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'm asking about the EMS situation. Mr. Michaelson earlier on was talking about a process to procure more vehicles for the EMS department. That was the explanation in 2014. That was the explanation in 2014. We have it on record. What has happened since then? Why are we still procuring EMS vehicles almost 5 years since the first time that excuse was given?
I'm sure you are aware, us as a new administration, at the beginning of this year, we actually released a statement about the procurement of faster engines, which were procured illegally and fraudulently, and we had to really stop that contract. We managed, fortunately, 4 or 5 months ago, you remember we received 4 of the engines already. Unfortunately, we're a new administration. 4 months into 2 years into this government. So there's just no way that you can expect us to really deal with all these challenges overnight.
I have a question for you as well, Mr. Muyilwa, but just one last question, Mr. Mayor, for you. The work of oversight in terms of ensuring that buildings comply partly falls on you as a city. How hard was it for you to determine that this building was, this and 7 other buildings should not be occupied by anyone within the city of Johannesburg, within your prescripts?
It's interesting because I'm sure some of you accompanied our team from development planning, where we've obviously working through the courts to actually demolish some of the buildings that do not comply. It's a process where we had to really work through the courts to make sure that we get court orders to be able to really demolish these buildings. It's not just this one and the one that we've demolished. And I'm sure you saw the statement that we issued afterwards that this is the beginning, us as a new administration, to ensure that compliance is no longer negotiable. And we're going to expect you as the media to deal with, to bear with us. Because when I made the statement on the 1st of December, you remember how you people insulted me and you thought I was mad. When I was saying to South Africa and the city of Johannesburg that we're sitting on a time bomb, let us stop it. And you called me names, you insulted me. Now look at what is happening. So I hope you're going to work with us as a new administration as we demolish these buildings, making sure that people everyone who put up a building in the city of Johannesburg do it within the legislative framework. But the challenge is so massive. We've got over 500 buildings in the inner city of Johannesburg who are not in compliance. And some of, unfortunately, of the prosecutorial responsibility does not lie with us as a city. If I can show you cases that are today sitting with an NPA where warrants of arrest have been issued for more than a year and no arrests have really been made. So I run a municipality, I don't run national government. So that is why it's important with the MEC being here to assist us as a city of Johannesburg, where the criminal justice system actually holds us up to help us unlock the system.
MEC Muyilwa, I'm going to suggest to you that the lack of care that was displayed by yourselves as a government here is almost acidemaniac. That lack of care for human life. How on earth were you sending people to go and work in a building that only complied at 21% compliance to health and safety? How do you describe yourselves as a caring government when you can't be caring for your own workers?
These things takes time. As the Premier explained yesterday, Department of Human Settlement and COGTA. Just when I arrived in May, I said that this building doesn't seem to be the kind of working environment where workers should work. And I inquired, and I was told that the budget has not been set, and I instructed the head of department that the budget should be set. By June, the budget was agreed upon, signed up with Department of Infrastructure Development. At that point, Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs had already taken a stand, a stand already, and their budget was approved, and they had advertised for to be evacuated from this building to go to another building. Just last week we received a comprehensive report about the state of the structural conditions of all buildings where the provincial government is working. And that report basically says 7 of those buildings, Mayor, are not suitable for working conditions. And just yesterday, an hour before we received a report that 23rd floor was on fire, the MEC of Infrastructure Development, MEC Mamabolo, was briefing Cabinet about the 7 buildings, and that the government should move with speed to ensure that we procure alternative buildings and then we can move the workers out of the building. So unfortunately this incident has happened. Now we must understand, as the mayor says, an incident is an incident, but this was an incident and an accident bound to happen because we knew that these buildings were not necessarily conducive for working environment.
I think for me the medium. This is just really, a drop in an ocean in terms of the risk that our people are facing. I can take you to buildings within, as I said, the 5-kilometer radius.
To government.
Yeah, no.
Yes,
whether they belong to government or not,
sector.
or private sector, we cannot allow a situation where we let our people live in this type of conditions. So I think it's important to ensure that you, as the media, hold us accountable to ensure that we get our people to live in conditions that are habitable. But obviously it's really very disappointing when it even including government buildings that do not comply. That actually demonstrates to us that the breakdown of the rule of law in the city of Johannesburg, it's something that unfortunately it is not negotiable. Unfortunately, for me as running a municipality, in terms of our competency, where we need provincial government and national government to
and
really
all of
work
this MEC was happening. People were working in these buildings and continue to work in the other buildings while you've said they must not come now. At a time when you are paying for buildings that are not occupied as a provincial government, it makes no sense whatsoever.
Absolutely, but life of our workers and employees, as it is the employees, it is for the case of the employees of the city, is as important. So it's not. The lives of our people are more important than the empty floors where workers were evacuated. There is a number of workers of cooperative governance that were moved to Diagonal Street building precisely because the assessor said that those floors were not suitable for workers to stay there. So we're complying whilst we're looking for an alternative building. And as I say to you, we are almost at the tail end of procuring the buildings, but the procurement processes take their own life, and we are not in control of that situation.
Is your office here, MEC, in this building?
As I talk to you now, the 9th floor is catching fire, and that's where the office of the MEC is.
Right. And every morning you walked in here, did it have to take a quote-unquote comprehensive report for you to actually say this is now an emergency, we need to get out of here? Every morning you walk in here, and the other MECs, do they also have their offices here?
Every morning when I walk into this building, when I arrive at my office, I ask the Chief of Staff, how far is the department with regard to procurement of an alternative building?
Did you fire anyone for failure to do that?
No, it's not failure by anyone to procure. As I say, I took a decision in May, and the budget was secured, and the procurement process was closed last Friday. Okay, so they are now at adjudication process. So that process has started. It has unfolded as it has been. The Premier's ordered for the commissioning of the structural conditions of all buildings that government works from, and this is an annual event. So we've got that report. So it's not something that came as an accident.
This is another bad advertisement for yourselves as a governing party, the ANC as well. Would you accept that?
Well, it's not about the ANC, it's not about any political party, it's about the lives of our people. It's about being efficient with regard to the systems that are required for us to ensure that workers are safe. It's not about politics, it's about the safety of our people.
I suppose what I'm talking about is that caring government element that you always talk to is not displayed by the conditions under which your workers have been working.
Well, that could be your statement, but as I indicate that in fact we are in a process of evacuating workers from our building, and that's why you will realize that none of the employees except one who was at the 24th floor, who was admitted in hospital yesterday, were able to evacuate 1,100 workers within 45 minutes once we were made aware that the fire has broken down. So this is in part as a consequence of the measures we've put into place, conscious of the fact that that building was not conducive for longer term occupation. And we had put those measures into place to ensure that if an emergency happens, we should be able to evacuate workers within 30 to 45 minutes. That we had successfully done. The firefighters, and may their soul rest in peace, these are heroes and heroines of our land who fought in defense of the lives of others. And I don't think we need to make politics out of it. They died on duty, extinguishing the fire, but none of the employees of the Department of Health, Human Settlement or Cooperative Governance had been affected in terms of fatality with regard to this particular situation. We regret the passing and the situation that 3 of our firefighters deceased. It is very unfortunate. These are the soldiers that died on duty.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And what I can personally appeal to you as the media, I'd really challenge you to start really looking at the city as fellow South Africans, to really look at the conditions of our people. This is just really a drop in the ocean in terms of the risks. We're sitting with very, very serious risk. And your responsibility as the media to hold us accountable, to ensure that we stop a situation where we...
And that's precisely what we're doing, Mr. Mayor, particularly around the issue of the EMS. For me, I feel like there's a lot that you need to account for. I know that you're talking about legacy issues, but you've been in office for 2 years now. The EMS situation was an emergency from day one. From day one, the issue of the EMS was an emergency. You've got to admit that.
It is for that reason when we took over the office, you are aware of the contract that we cancelled of EMS, which was fraudulent, which we shared it with you as the media. And the company that was given a tender to provide the fire engines, that company is actually under liquidation as we speak. And we look at that contract fraudulent. We share this with you, and I'm sure no one would expect us to continue dealing with a company that is firstly
issues to do with compressed air. That there were issues a few years ago. Have those been attended to? The issues to do with uniforms. I mean, we heard stories from some firefighters talking about buying their own socks and those kinds of things. Have those been attended to? I hear the issue about the fire engines, but I'm saying the systemic issues, the other systemic issues. Have those been addressed since you took office?
Okay. Let me, fortunate enough, when I took over office, I immediately did an audit of all infrastructural backlog in the city of Johannesburg, confirmed by National Treasury. 170 billion rands. I shared this with you, with everyone. You look at our current budget in terms of capex, just under 10 billion rands. So if anyone would really expect us as a new multi-party government to address 170 billion rands of infrastructure backlog all in 2 years, I think it's really unfair. What I'm asking you to do, hold us accountable on the budget and the money that we've got available to us.
Right. Yeah, but let me just indicate that government has got the responsibility to govern on behalf of the citizens. It doesn't really matter which political party comes to play. Now, unfortunately, if, as the mayor alleges, and these are the matters that are here for the first time, and that's the reason why, as an MEC of cooperative governance, local government, I have a responsibility when matters such as the ones that the mayor is talking about are reported and I'm made aware of them. I'm empowered in terms of Section 106 of Municipal Systems Act to inquire from the mayor what evidence do we have, so that if there's evidence, I must now pull 106 subsection 1B to institute a forensic investigation, so that indeed if people were corrupt, mayor, they should be brought to book and people must be accountable. Yeah. Now, this must not be done at the expense of holding programs that otherwise were necessary, for instance, the procurement of goods and services that could probably have given us the necessary capacity for us not to
Mayor, can you confirm that we only have 14 fire engines for the entire Joburg as we speak now? Is that something you can... He's behind you. He's behind you. MMC, is that still the situation, that we only have 14 fire engines for all of Johannesburg?
Well, we have more than 14 fire engines, but please understand that a lot of the fire engines are extremely old. Some of them are 30 years old, so they do go back to workshop. It's an extremely undesirable situation. We've never made a secret that we suffer this legacy issue, but I think, as the mayor said, that we take responsibility to rectify these issues. We are not saying that we look away, but I certainly want to share with our residents that our fire engine replacement program is going ahead. In fact, I spoke to the city manager this morning. The tender specification will be concluded anytime soon. The advert is expected to go out in about 2 weeks' time. And other equipment that you mentioned earlier, we'll certainly look into that. There's no such a thing as the city of Johannesburg not wanting to take responsibilities. We're here for our residents, and we'll deal with every single issue that needs attention.
In fact, we invited you, 3-4 months ago, when we received 4 brand new fire engines, and I'm sure you saw that. That really demonstrates to you that we're serious about this, but we can only operate on the basis of the budget available to us.
Thank you for indulging me. I really appreciate it. Let me release you so you can go attend to.
Thank you very much.
To the situation. Really appreciate it.
Okay, Mayor. Thank you very much.
So much, everyone.
All right.
Okay.
So let's look at the premier's thing, and then I'll check.
All right, that was the Mayor of Johannesburg, Herman Mashaba, alongside the MEC of Human Settlements and Local Government in Gauteng, that's Mr. Uhuru Moyilwa, and of course the MMC of Community Safety in Gauteng, Michael San, just answering some very difficult questions there from my colleague Thulasizwe Simelane.